find a way.
Jackie Craft, so glad to have you here today, and we could talk about all kinds of different things because you are a multi-sport athlete, multi-talented woman. We could go back to your Hall of Fame volleyball days at King, where I watched some pretty intense volleyball matches
For sure.
over Incline Gym, and
I learned about soccer. I did nothing about it until then.
Yep. I did not know. I thought volleyball was a fun sport, social sport that I did on holidays with my family, and we were friendly and people. And then I saw you play volleyball.
That's right. We were mean.
And you knocked people's teeth out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there were the Mo Mallorys and the Lisa's that were our centers that, roof, they put the ball back on the other side.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Because it was in the old gym.
Yes.
There was no air conditioning. There was no creature comforts.
Right.
And it was packed.
Yes.
And there were no cell phones. Like, we actually watched the game. And there was so few entertainment options. Like, that was one of the more important things of the week.
Right. I have seen a few volleyball games in the new gym, and I'm like, this isn't right.
It's like that most places. Like, it's like too comfortable. It's
right.
Like going to a theater. And, man, I miss that.
I do, too.
So much fun. And the intramural competition in there was pretty intense.
Right.
So.
Well, I took a volleyball officiating with Susie Toomey.
Yep.
And then we, it was all a lot of athletes and non-athletes, but we would learn our lesson, but then we played and it would get a little intense.
Yeah. The links we would go for that intramural championship T-shirt.
Yes. Yeah.
Back then. But there's more important stuff to talk about.
That's right. We've grown up.
We have grown up. We found more important things to do than soccer and volleyball. Good for us.
Yay.
Well, you've taken you've done a lot of different things. Like we've kept up through the years, and you've moved from Bristol, but done some really interesting things.
Sure.
And right now, you are working on the homeless problem in Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
And I am really intrigued with trying to figure out like what does a solution look like?
Right.
Because everybody can articulate the problem, right? Like you've got people that are displaced, houses are getting more expensive, transitional housing is a problem, people need housing to get their life back on track. There's no housing.
Right.
The problems can seem overwhelming, and it's almost frustrating because other problems, like you can see a path to success.
Right.
So that's why I'm so excited you're here today.
Yeah.
Because you guys are doing stuff that's you're having success.
We are. And, living in Dallas, it's unique because one thing that we have that you all don't have is we have different programs staying in their lane and doing different things for the homeless. So that helps too. We don't feel like we have to be everything to the homeless.
You can focus on.
Yes, and I work for the Samaritan Inn, and we're a transitional shelter, not housing, but we are a transitional shelter.
Tell me about the problem that you are focused on solving.
Mm-hmm. So the structure of our program is to bring in individuals that we anticipate through the intake process can be back up on their feet within about a year. That includes them being drug-free, being alcohol-free, having all their documents, or quickly being able to get those so that they can work. We are a work program, and so the expectation is within 60 days of being with us that they acquire a full-time job.
Oh, that seems ambitious.
It is ambitious. If you set the bar low, just like in soccer, you set the bar low, then they'll reach that low bar.
Yep.
And so But, we're not we're careful with our intake process to bring in the right clients so that they can be successful with some work.
So tell me about let's zoom out for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the homeless problem can seem overwhelming if you're trying to fix all of it.
Right.
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 And so when you look at the larger problem, what are the different, like, I guess, subsets of homeless, and where particular, like, where do your clients, like, where do they fit into the larger picture?
Right. So some of the subsets that center around our clients being appropriate for transition, we're thinking within a year with the support, they can get back up on their feet. They also have to be appropriate for community living. We could have anywhere up to 150 people living there, so they have to get along, and they can't have, recent charges of assault or something that may not be appropriate to live with within a community.
Okay.
Now, what you have in the network of Dallas that are those subsets are domestic violence. Mostly women who may have experienced domestic violence. They may have kids, they may not. They need treatment for that. And if they're still in the process of healing and needing treatment, they're probably not good for us. You have alcohol and drug issues. If somebody's an active user or not ready to be drug or alcohol free, they're not good for our program.
Are there a fair amount of number who have been through recovery, or that just isn't their problem?
No, we do. We have several individuals that have been through recovery processes.
Okay.
And they come to our program and they're completely appropriate to be there.
But that drug and alcohol recovery is not in your lane.
That is not in our lane.
Yeah.
And we can talk more about that when we talk about kind of the programming.
Yeah, because you've got an interesting perspective, because your career, you're trained in psychology, you've done counseling, you've done a lot of different stuff. So.
Right. And always kind of been, even like through the Virginia Community College system at Virginia Highlands, I worked in the TRIO programs, and that was for those that are experiencing, poverty, those that just don't have the support system necessarily in place to understand how to go to college, what that means. The families needed kind of coaching through that process. So from a lot of different angles, it's not that much different than Dallas, but then you're just expanding your population, your type of people, your background of individuals. Right. So like what I'm talking about now is probably the same problems that are here, but just on a different scope, and we have different resources. For example, like I said, in Dallas, we have food pantries, we have day programs, we have emergency shelters, we have women's and children's shelters, we have only for men shelters, we have cooling stations, we have libraries that allow individuals to come in there and use the library. And what you're going to see if you go look at the numbers is it's Dallas County and then Collin County, which is where I am. So you have Dallas County, which is south of Plano, and then Plano's kind of split. When you get up towards us, it becomes Collin County. And so those two counties are the areas where we're seeing most of the homeless, but that's where the programs are.
But the programs you just described, it's not one big organization trying to connect all those dots. It's independent organizations that have focused on a particular subset or a particular problem.
Right. Because just like anything else, one program cannot do it all.
Yeah.
They'll just be, it's better to do something well than try to do too much unwell.
Yeah.
Something's going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah. It's hard to get really good at any one of those things. That's a problem with that's a challenge a small town has.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's like, not just in this, but in everything. Like a lot of times I think you're almost forced into being a generalist.
Right.
To survive in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people aren't ever given the opportunity to be specialists are really good at one thing.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's understanding who the homeless is here.
Yeah.
And sometimes those aren't conversations we have with people in need to say, what's your story? How did you get here? What are your immediate needs? What were these the same needs that you had a year ago?
Yeah.
What's been your support system?
Yeah.
Has alcohol or drugs been a problem in the past? Has domestic violence been a problem in the past? Has family generational poverty been a problem? What's your relationship with money? I mean, it can go on, but you have to ask those questions. And my guess is when you ask questions, because we see it through our intake process and all, is that there's patterns. Mm-hmm. And so if you know what the patterns are, then it's kind of like, okay, these are the big items that we can focus on through our program.
Tell me more about those patterns that you observed.
So alcohol and drugs, whether it's homeless people or just us, if you went to the soccer sideline and interviewed parents, who knows how many of them are going to have problems in their family with alcohol and drugs. So that's always one. We're always concerned about that. We do drug testing when they come in for intake, and we do random drug testing. We also have a program where if somebody has had alcohol and drug problems and they're recovered, but they're back with us and they have an incident, that we're able to network them back into a program to give them kind of that second chance. So alcohol and drugs is a big one.
And it sounds like that is, before they deal with that, it's hard. Is it difficult to fix the other stuff until you address that?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. If someone is struggling with alcohol or drug dependency, I mean, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I mean, if you don't have a place to sleep and you don't have safety, and you add alcohol and drug use on top of that, how are you supposed to go to work, every day and be successful and be able to have healthy relationships?
And when you think of it in from that perspective, like drug and alcohol abuse is not unique to it spans all socioeconomic classes.
Absolutely.
But is it fair to say that in a higher socioeconomic level, there's more margin for error?
Right. You have a net to fall back on.
Yeah. Whereas if you don't have that, the alcohol addiction or drug addiction, like there's just no margin for error.
Right. And when you're in addiction, you'll get desperate and you'll do desperate things. And if you're walking down the street and you're kind of on your own, it's hard telling what type of drugs you're getting. Sometimes maybe, you're taking things that you don't even know exactly what you're taking.
Yeah, it's risky.
Meth and all the bad things you think about are on the streets. And they just run into that. And you get desperate and you don't feel good. And then if that gives you a little lift and you feel better, then of course you're going to repeat it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's that you're looking for first.
Mm-hmm.
And is that a common, I mean.
It is. I mean, like marijuana. Yeah. That's so common. Yeah. Alcohol's so common. And then some of the other harder things. And sometimes it's prescription drug use. I mean, it goes on and on and on. That's one of the things. The other pattern that we kind of see is the generational poverty. That when we start talking to our residents, that their parents struggled with a lot of the things that they struggle with as far as relationship with money, with holding down a job, with mindset and decision-making, all those things, unless there's an intervention and change, a lot of times continues generation to generation.
Tell me more about that, because I think that's sometimes overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
In our culture that sees everybody as an individual, I think sometimes we discount like the context from which, like the village.
Right. Yeah. And how enmeshed we can be in our family patterns. It's just like, for example, so I teach a financial development class, and it's called the emotional impact of money. And so I'll ask you this question, and this is the first question I ask in that class is, what's your earliest memory of money? when money became like a thought to you as a kid? Do you know?
I actually do.
When was it?
I was flipping stickers in second grade. Like I would get stickers and then
You were a
sell
sticker dealer.
Yeah, I was a sticker dealer, and then I would sell them to my friends.
And what did you do with that money?
Well, I probably bought baseball cards, and
Okay.
maybe have done the same thing with that.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever save that money?
Yeah, I'm sure. That was in my consciousness, no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as you became a teenager and worked, did you started saving money, or were you the spender as a teenager?
Oh, yeah. Like it was always, yeah, both. Yeah.
You had a good balance.
Yeah. I mean, we were not, I did not come from a silver spoon kind of background. So we were pretty disciplined. We were pretty disciplined with money.
Right. And so when you ask a classroom of people, whether they're homeless or not, there's going to be lots of different relationships with money. Some people are like, yeah, I spent it. You know, as a teenager, if I got money, I wanted to buy stuff because I had money. And then it's like, is that how your parents did? You know, did they model that? And a lot of times it's yes. And then it's like, well, is that what your relationship with money now? Yes, that's why I'm here at this shelter, is because I can't save money. Well, it's been a whole life. You can't just one day say, okay, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
When you've had a lifetime of a pattern of spending all your money.
Right. And it doesn't matter how much money you make.
Right. Right. A lot of our residents have had successful careers, which is a whole kind of another pattern that we see is individuals who have had careers, who have had success, and then have a series of bad circumstances or poor decisions that created the homeless. I mean, I've heard us talk from the framework of, you know, people can be 2 decisions away or 2 events away from being homeless. You lose your job, you can't get employed, then you have that apartment or home payment and car payment and phone payment and childcare payment and all the things. And then all of a sudden you've used all your savings and you have nothing.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's lots of patterns like that. But from my perspective, one of my favorite ones is the emotional impact of money.
But what's interesting about that is it's not necessarily, like, homelessness is not a product of necessarily laziness.
Right.
Or there might not be a correlation between working and homelessness, because you can make money, and if you don't have the financial literacy and those skills, it doesn't help you.
Right. And another layer of that is debt. Because your relationship with money also tends to dictate your debt. Like, are you a credit card user? We have some individuals that have 5 credit cards that are maxed out when they come. Some of that's to survive on.
Yeah.
And then other times, and they're very open about, it's like, I just spent, you know, I had these credit cards and it felt good to be able to do things that I hadn't been able to do before. So I'm going to spend.
Yeah.
So
the cash advance places in there, and that can pray.
Yes. It goes on and on and on with those patterns. And so that's a big thing that we address too is debt, the patterns of debt before they got to us. And we are a program. We're not just a in and out hotel. We're a long-term program. And the expectation is that you work and a big goal is saving and then paying off debt.
Yeah. So every story is unique, right? Like, it's hard.
Absolutely.
It's flawed to generalize, but as you mentioned, you see trends. You see patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And those patterns, it sounds like a common part of it is alcohol and drug abuse, financial illiteracy, to where hard work is not it doesn't solve. It's not the solution. Having a job isn't a solution. And then abuse, domestic abuse,
Mm-hmm.
because your clientele is typically women. Is that?
We have a mixture. I mean, we're probably about 50-50 or a little, 10% up, 10% down of men and women. It's a lot of people have either had a broken relationship, and you could define abuse a lot of different ways, whether it's emotional abuse or physical abuse or all the things. Ended up without your breadwinner, and you're a mom with 3 kids who hadn't worked because you've been taking care of the kids, and then your husband or your partner leaves. That's a tough situation to be in. Or, like I mentioned, a gentleman who's 60 years old and had a career and ended up sick and lost their job because they were out too long. And then ageism is, a difficult thing, because if they can hire a 25-year-old at a lower rate when you have 20 years of great experience, that would be wonderful to have. But companies have to make those decisions too. And then you end up using all your savings to survive. At some point, there's a breaking point at some point.
Yeah.
So those type of relationships and home situations can look a lot different to across the board for our residents.
Yeah. And any, like you mentioned, like any couple of problems that happen at the same time could land someone homeless.
Absolutely.
Especially if they don't have a support system.
Right. And that, or if they have a dysfunctional support system. Because you go back to the relationship with money is, and we have young adults, it's so easy to, when they have a problem, just say, well, let me help you with that. But then maybe that becomes an expectation. And then, there might be a single mom giving her son all her leftover money because he's trying to make it on his own. And then instead of that just being a gift here and there, it becomes an expectation. One of the most heart-wrenching conversations I've had with a resident was he was getting ready to graduate. He'd done great in the program. He had saved. And he looked at me and said, my girls are going to take my money. They're going to take it all when I get out of here. I'm like, well, say no, because that is just you enabling them to come to you and say, hey, Daddy, I need some money. And you just melt and do it. When it's not a healthy boundary, it's not you being mean. It's you not having those boundaries. And sure enough, through the grapevine, about 6 months later, he didn't have money. But, I mean, just literally walking out the door, we've been celebrating him, and he looks at me, he's like, they're going to take my money.
Do you find that people have the self-awareness to know what these problems are, or is it a really difficult process of like educating them that they are financially illiterate?
Right. And there's a variety. It's a variety because some people come so humble, and it's the sweetest thing to see that, because they know, and they know what they need to do. But if you look at the transactional theory of change, and you look at the mindset of resistance, of moving through that into action when you're contemplating, you can see it. If you're talking to somebody and you talk about, well, these are some things, or you're going to learn in class about this, and they're just kind of like, yeah, those things don't work, or I already know that, then I'm thinking, well, if you know it, why haven't you put it to use? And so there's a lot of resistance, because it's for adults to come in, it is a existential threat to their status. I mean, not like they're saying that, but we know that, if you had to go to a shelter and take your family, if you lost everything, Matt, and you had to take, if you had kids still at home and had to go to a shelter, and then you have me going, you're going to take some financial classes and stuff. It's kind of like,
sure,
do I need that? But, and so we have some of that. Then we have people that come so willing, like hungry. They almost aggravate you because they want so much to fix their problems. And then you have everything in between. So we get to see a lot of success in mind change, from resistance to contemplation to action, where they're putting some steps together. I worked with I think she's almost 30. She had some developmental issues, but her caseworker referred her to me, and it was early in the process for an individual budget meeting. But I'm like, okay, well, let's see what's going on here. And she's 30, had some disabilities on Social Security, but she could, SSI, she could work part-time, and that's what she'd been doing for a while. She was 30. But then we started looking at her spending, and I'm like, what is going, what's this for? And we looked, and she was so open. She's like, I know, I spend my money. And so we started looking at that and started setting some goals.
Yeah.
And she would check in with me every month. She was so willing. She would send her bank information, her credit cards, and she just was begging for help. And it took about 6 months, really, before she could say she was going to change and then check in with me at the end of the month and had actually made some change. Part of that was family. Part of that was habits. Part of that was mindset. And she started putting things together, but it took about 6 months.
With a lot of coaching.
A lot of coaching. Her caseworker was coaching her. She had a therapist coaching her. And then she had me as kind of her life coach for the accountability piece with finances.
Yeah. Which, like, people don't have coaches.
Right. And we don't teach. We could be here for hours, Matt, but the education or high schools don't teach personal finance. Does that not blow your mind?
If you could make one change, if you could, with the stroke of a pen, change, would that be?
It would be everything in high school. It would be more technical. It would be definitely personal finance.
Yeah. There's also one of the things I've learned just different areas of teaching from coaching and business is you have to teach something at the right time.
Right.
Right. And so sometimes I wonder, like in high school, is it the right time? Are they really going to, is it relevant to them at that time?
Well, one thing I've learned as an educator is we as educators can talk and have them read books and have them write papers and do assignments, but until you say, go do it and report back, then it doesn't become real. Even with our own kids, we talk, and then they come back and it's like, they say something, you're like, I told you that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I said it was going to be like this. Or even just using a credit card, explaining to Shelby, like, using a credit card's good. But she's like, no, people have credit card problems. I don't want to be one of those. I'm like, but you have to do this to build credit. And so once she got that was fine. But, if we had a more active high school instead of sitting in your chair, why aren't they pretending they're investing? Why aren't they building a house? Why aren't they learning about your model?
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing more experiments, like real life experiments with kids where they're actually understanding that in the context of real life?
Yeah.
That would be the biggest, even just like building a house. Well, you've got to know how to use a drill.
Yeah.
And you've got to know how to use all that.
I've had a lot of educators on, I don't think many people in education would disagree with what you're saying. There's so many different demands on educators, like, don't have the luxury of doing what you think is most important.
Right.
Like there's so much administrative and so many demands. But so going back to this subset and the trends, there's some substance abuse that's typical.
Yes.
There is financial illiteracy. That's a part of it. There's likely some domestic abuse, generational abuse going on. What else?
I think along with that is, I don't know if it's relationship is the right word, but how somebody values work. Do you work to have enough money to live on and eat on? And that's good for you. Or do you work because you just love a particular area of work? Or are you working to do something bigger? I've got to work in this job to get to this job, and then this job to get to this job. Or are you really wanting to do some type of special training, but you don't know how to do that so that you can do a particular job because it seems interesting to you? So that's another piece of it. The career development is, we have individuals that just jump from one job to another job, and then we have individuals that have done a good job of holding one job down.
Yeah. And that's got to be important, right? Like your approach to that. And I wonder if you're pushed into, when you're pushed into desperation and survival, your time frame can get very short. Like you're literally living from week to week,
right,
or day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And how I would view it is not a luxury that you have. So do you have to you just have to retrain? What are you trying? What does success look like for your coaching there?
Right. So one of the first things I do from my pillars, my pillars that I oversee are career development and financial development. So they see me right when they get there, because I'm assessing, do you have a job? Do you have a resume? And all the things, financial literacy, do they have a bank account? All the things. And so in that regard to career development, do they have a resume, understanding what their work in the past has been and where they're going? And they do understand that they have 60 days, which goes fast these days. Hiring is so slow now, especially in the city. But a lot of times because they have so many people applying, how do you get through 100?
So every day matters.
Yes, it does. And so do they have a resume? Looking at their job history, their age, their capacity to work, because that's another thing. One of those patterns and layers is health. Yeah. You've got to be healthy to go to work every day, all day, forever. Mm-hmm. And so if you have mental illness and some days you just really don't feel good, or you're struggling with anxiety or depression or psychosis or whatever, that's kind of hard to go to work. But it's so important, and that's one thing I do coach. It's like, we want you to have a job here. It may not be your forever job, but we've got to find a job around here that you can go to work and go every day and get there every day. And the first 90 days is going to be really important. It's probably going to be the difference whether that company wants to keep you or not. And whether they tell you it's a trial, your first 90 days are important to being successful. And so, if I see somebody that's limping, it's like, okay, do you have the best shoes? Do you have the shoes you need in order to make it through a day when you're limping and don't feel good? Do you have some clothes that maybe fit you a little bit better so that you're comfortable and appropriate at work? And it goes on and on. But it's really about the awareness. And I'm a little bit older too. And so I'll tell them, it's like, you haven't worked in a little bit, and now you have a job. And I'm going to tell you right now, the first month is not going to feel good. You're going to be tired. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to just wonder if you're going to make it. But if you'll work for more than a month, you're going to see that all of a sudden your body follows your head, and it's going to feel better.
Well, you're also providing a home for them, like a literal bed. And and I wonder, how difficult is it to get a job if you don't have a bed to sleep in? It's easy for us to point to the homeless and point to all the jobs that need to be doing and say, get a job.
Right.
But it's not that easy, right?
It isn't. We can just put ourselves in that role and have a little bit of empathy and think about, if you're sleeping on the street, how are you really going to be able to just get up and be like, okay, I'm going to work? Or if you're worried about your safety, or are you having to leave little babies at home to go feed them? Who's going to watch your kids? All those things come into play. And so what we provide at the Samaritan Inn is, all this is free. They get a free room. A family room is a whole family is in a room together. Okay. If you're a single man, you come in and you're going to share a room. It's like a big dorm. It's going to be 4 to a room, 2 bunks, dressers for everybody, closet space, and a bathroom in there. Same thing for females, 4 to a room. You have all those. We have a dining room. All the food, you're going to have 3 hot meals a day, free of charge. We have certain dining room hours. You just got to get yourself over there. Feed as much. Nobody, it's a joke. I'm like, nobody is going to starve or lose weight while you're at Samaritan Inn, because we have plenty of food. They get free caseworker that they meet with every week. They get a free counselor who is a LPC trained. They're licensed counselors. And then they get Jackie. They get career development and financial development by way of classes, and then one-to-one with me for resume, budget, credit, coaching, anything they need in that regard.
It's a support system that they probably never had before.
Right. It's unique.
But it's very intentional.
Very intentional to say, we're going to take away the barrier of being able to afford a place to live. We're going to take away the barrier of being hungry. We're going to take away the barrier of safety, and we're going to infuse you with a lot of support where you still have autonomy and decision-making and dignity, but we are going to be there, and you're going to be seen for good or bad. Mm-hmm. You're going to be seen, and we're going to ask questions, and we're going to, set goals. And if you have a question about, you've got to get childcare and this and that, we're going to have those resources to give you. We're not going to do everything for you.
Yeah. We're
going to coach you. We're going to guide you. We're going to give you those resources.
What you've just described is a lot. Like, where does that happen? Is it more effective, like in groups, one-on-one, a mix? What does it look like?
I think the mix. I mean, I don't think anything's good when it's just homogeneous. You've got to have some variety.
Yeah.
Like just with the classes, some people are like, "Oh, I'm going to be in class with other people." I'm like, "Yeah, but maybe 10 other people, and you can talk or not talk. That's totally up to you. That's your decision. If you have a question and you don't ask it, that's your choice.
Yeah.
If you want to speak up, fine. But yeah, so I think the variety and just like dining, everybody, kids, parents, and singles all use the same dining room. We have a little bit of different hours now, and we've just started that because we're kind of still pulling out of the COVID era where families come first they start at like 5:30. They come in, get their kids fed, and they fed, and then they leave, and then the singles come in. But like for lunch and breakfast, everybody's together. So even eating, you learn to, and they know to do it, but sometimes we don't put things into practice. Like, it's okay if somebody takes a little longer in front of you. It's just good manners just to, even though you may be irritated, to just stand there and not say anything. Or, just all the having some manners, I guess.
Nuances of living in a
community. Yeah.
Going back to the generational stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a fair amount that have never seen this.
Right. Like they've just eaten with their family.
Or a healthy community.
Yeah. Or if you've done things your whole life with your family a certain way, sometimes you don't know that there is a healthier way until you see when you're sitting with another family going, they're doing it different, but that seems you're thinking this. Like they do this, or this is a requirement of the program where I've never done that, but now I'm understanding why this is maybe a better way than I've done it my entire life.
Yeah, just a new vision of success.
Right. And then I'm not part necessarily of the family team because I serve the parents, but not the kids. But, we all parent differently. Is screaming at your kid the most healthy thing? No, but is it illegal? No. But, how can we coach parents to speak more effectively? And how do we say, you could approach your kid yelling at you and belittling you in a different way. And so, I mean, there's so much layers of trying to model and coach and for some of the things that maybe have not been helpful to residents, and then finding their strengths and the value they bring to themselves and really trying to nurture that.
Yeah. So what does the path look like? So you're doing a lot of coaching, you're doing a lot of support, you are really trying to get them a job in 60 days. Yes. And that's critical, right? Like without the job, there's probably no real path to success.
Right. That's a tough one. But, people do it. They do it all the time. But so they have our boundaries are flexible. If we see somebody really trying to get a job, I'll go back to the 60-year-old man trying to get a job. And we're track this. We don't just say, oh, yeah, you're trying to find a job. Good job. But it's like, well, show me. And this, mostly the caseworker, is really their person, their advocate, and then the rest of us, and their counselor. And so I'm kind of like the supplement to that. But they have to report in with their caseworker and show screenshots or some type of evidence that they got denied for a job or whatever. So we're tracking that. But, they have to put forth that effort. And let's say, okay, great, they got a job. Then it's getting the classes in. It is being consistent. That's another pattern is, are you going to go to your caseworker every week? And then if you're going to miss, are you communicating before that? You have a chore. Are you doing your chore every day? All the things so they can get write-ups. It is programming. So even though it's adults, they know that, but on intake, that, there's some requirements. You're not going to just sit in just a wide open, do what you want to do.
It's a lot of structure.
It is a lot of structure. But again, a lot of autonomy. It's not a jail. They can come and go as they want to. So they can make their decisions. Like 9 o'clock curfew, that's ridiculous for adults. But we have children that live in the same building you do, and they have school, and we have got babies and all that. So the rule has to be 9. Can you do that even though you don't want to do it?
Yeah.
It's your choice.
Yeah. If
it's too much for you, you can let us know you're leaving, and that gives somebody that can do that another spot.
So they do that, and they get a job in that 60 days. What from there? Like, what are the hardest parts once they get that job? Is it performing? And
not necessarily, because they have skills. They're in a transitional program. We've screened them and know that they have the capacity to do that. It is, like I mentioned earlier, it's like getting their body conditioned to getting up, getting there on time every single day, forever.
Yeah.
Managing, yes, even though you're working, you still have to do casework. If you haven't finished your classes with me, even though you're working, you got to look at the schedule and figure out how to get them all in.
Yeah.
Even though you're working, you need to let the program specialists know that now you have a job, so you're not going to be doing your chore starting this day, so that they can put somebody else on there. If you have doctor's appointments because you have mental health or physical health needs, you got to work that around your doctor's appointments. If transportation is a challenge, then you have to make sure that you're taking care of that, not 10 minutes before you have to be somewhere. Yeah. And so it's really like pulling it's like a puppet, and the job is pulling up a big string, but they're still like this. And it's like, can I do this? Can I do this? Now, can I walk holding all of this?
And if you start with really bad habits or no good habits, like that's a lot. It's a lot to change. It's a lot of new muscle memory.
Right.
To learn, right?
Absolutely. And we've had, I think of a gentleman, he just moved into our gateway, and that's a whole nother conversation. So we do have a graduation program. If they do well in our program, we have apartments that they can move into with gentle support. But we have a gentleman who had, been a professional chef and this and that, not in Dallas, but came to Dallas, and then had a series of family issues. Ended up living in a tent for a year and a half, panhandled, just to have enough money to get alcohol and survive, and, just make it. Then he ended up at Samaritan Inn, got a job with one of our big employers who we could not survive without Hutchins Barbecue, and he had been a chef. He knows food. So he's doing his job really well. He doesn't have anything, and so he doesn't have a lot of bills. He hasn't run up credit cards or anything because he just lived on very little. And now he's got a bunch in savings. He's got to get a few little credit things taken care of. He has some barriers, so he's good to move in Gateway. And I just missed it because I'm traveling, and he got to move in, and the world is his oyster. He got back up on his feet. And moving forward, he can decide what he wants to do.
But he didn't get it back up on his feet on his own. And
and he's one. And a lot of adults are just like when we ask him to do things or we're talking to him, they're just kind of like rolling their eyes. But he stuck with it.
Yeah.
He stuck with it.
But I just wonder how much pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, do any of us really do that?
Right.
Like,
Right.
We're all either.
It's more, I envision it, it's more like our web
Yeah.
gets knocked down, it
Yeah.
gets big holes in it, which leaves deficits.
Yeah.
And I think we all have those all the time.
Yeah.
But when they get too big, just like a web, it starts sinking.
Mm.
And nobody's coming to build that for you.
Mm.
It's like, it's up to you. And yeah, you can't just pull everything up. You have to decide where you're going to start. And you build, and you notice that when you get this structure, maybe it's having that job. When you have a job and you're with us and you're not having to pay a lot of bills to live, then all of a sudden you have that and you're like, oh, okay, I can put money in savings. Well, now that this is taken care of, I can maybe start working on this, like being kind to people, restoring some relationships with my family, or being consistent with my medication because I have diabetes. So I'm going to be real consistent here. Or, I do have a lot of anxiety and I have some poor patterns. So now maybe I can start working on that. And so it's not really that blue collar, let's pull it up. You got to get everything in order right now. It's like, what's the capacity?
Yeah.
Where are your priorities that you decide within our structure? And then you just start gently pulling things up, and all of a sudden you're in a completely different place.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, though, that you guys have identified certain strands in that web to provide support for.
Right.
And I think that's important, because if you're trying to solve all the problems for everybody, it does become like this overwhelming problem that you just throw your hands in the air, right?
Right.
Like, what organization can solve homelessness in Bristol? Like, what you're saying is you don't solve homelessness in Bristol. Different organizations solve different parts of it, which is probably more difficult for a rural community with less resources than a Dallas that has more ability to specialize.
But I think the strength of the rural area and maybe something like Bristol is that you have people that care deeply about the community because they've been here forever. Yeah,
I want to hear more about that. You've lived in both places, like you were born in Southwest Virginia,
right?
Now you're living in Dallas. I think we oftentimes focus on what we don't have that the big cities have.
Right.
I'd be curious to hear from you, like the fabric of Appalachia.
Right.
What do we have that people don't have in Dallas in this situation?
Right, right. And I think that's one of the big things is just a deep care for your community. And I know I heard Brooks on his talking about that people just don't look at the homeless and understand it. We look the other way. But it's, and I use this word gently, but it's ignorance. We don't understand. And even in my conversations with friends and family, they don't understand because they've never sat down and talked to a homeless person. It's just icky. And so just like domestic abuse or substance abuse, it's like, ooh, that's too hard. Let's just act like it doesn't exist, or let's ignore it and maybe it'll go away. But I think with a small community, if you can get the right people on board, you can get the right volunteers, you can get some momentum, that there would be really authentic buy-in from your churches, from your nonprofits, from your industry to say, hey, this is our community. These individuals are part of that. And we need to be the game changers. The government's not coming to save you, nor should they. It should be a community thing. And while at Dallas, you have people maybe throwing money and stuff, there's not that just love of your culture and community like there is in a rural area like Bristol.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm trying to, as you're talking, I'm trying to think, like, what does that look like? Like, and what we didn't get to is the transitional housing. Like, that's part of the solution, right? So there's the coaching, there's the support system, there is the initial housing, there's the job, and then from there it's the transitional housing, which you described the gentleman having that. It's my understanding that has gotten infinitely more difficult to provide in Bristol because of the cost of just the scarcity of affordable housing.
Yeah, and we have that same problem. But if you just look at what can we do for the homeless, especially in a rural area, and not necessarily understanding you're homeless. I mean, and they're not all just sitting downtown Bristol. It's like, how are nonprofits or stakeholders in this reaching out? You know, is somebody going in Castlewood? Is somebody in Bristol? Is somebody in Big Stone Gap? You know, are you going to where there may be people on the verge of homelessness? What do they need? We may think they need clothes. They probably don't. They probably need something else. Is it that if they had a month of their house payment or rent, that just giving them a month to breathe would keep them in the house? That's the diversion piece. Like, you're keeping them out of homelessness. But until you do a formative evaluation and reach out, don't require everybody to come to you, but you have people out in the community determining what the need is and what the problem is, and get a better grip on defining that. It's hard to say, okay, we know this is a problem, and look, it looks like we have some solutions with these stakeholders. Let's put that to work and deal with that piece of the pie right now.
Yeah. One of the common denominators of a lot of the nonprofits that I've talked to on here is you've got the need, right? So it could be a 60-year-old man, it could be a 30-year-old abused woman. You've got the problem. And then there are resources, but it takes a caseworker, who is what you're describing.
At the very least.
That person at the point of the spear to really connect the problem with some kind of solution. And in my conversations, it's that caseworker that is typically the hero of the story.
The champion. She or he champions the advocacy, the resource building, the follow-up, the accountability with an individual who doesn't have severe mental substance abuse. Again, when those things, it gets complicated. But if you have an individual that isn't so impaired by something, then that caseworker who is passionate, who doesn't work hard for the client, if you have that informed caseworker, can make a huge difference really fast.
Yeah. And it's like there's no path to success without that caseworker. Like, all the solutions don't work without that hero to the story.
Right. And I think Samaritan Inn is a testimony to, yes, casework is just the bleep. It's like, that has to be there. But then when you add mental health, and then you add career development, and you add financial, then it's a different ballgame. So when you can add those pieces, it creates a whole different level of success.
Gotcha. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And to have them all takes a fairly mature ecosystem to provide all those pieces.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got, and just like the Samaritan Inn, and I've talked mostly about programs because that's my piece of the pie. We also have a whole dining staff that is preparing to feed 100-ish people for every meal and clean up after them. Then we have our volunteer office, which we haven't even talked about the role of volunteers. We have over 100 volunteers that help every week.
What do they do? Tell me what that looks like.
The volunteers work in the dining hall.
Yeah.
They sort donations that come in because our donation level is out the roof.
And you fund this. You fund this whole operation mostly with a resale store.
No, not mostly, but our yearly budget is like $4.5 million.
Okay.
I think last year, it's going to be better this year, which is not saying anything about the previous history of our thrift store. Like they're raising $600,000 that goes back. And then we're mostly private, which shocks people because they think, oh, they're a government program. No, we're not. We have individuals and corporations that fund us, which gives us a lot of flexibility to say, yeah, we're going to be ethical and we're going to do things by standards, but we also have the power to do what we know is right because we've been doing it for 40 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So
the volunteers, they're sorting their...
They're working in the dining hall. They're working at our front desk. They're our greeters. They're working in our thrift store. We have different levels of volunteerism. We have professionals. Like if you came to Samaritan and you lived in McKinney and you came in, we're not going to have you work the front desk. You would be with me, probably teaching some financial classes. So we have different levels. You know, some people don't want responsibility when they just want to be a part of something that's working.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of retirees, and they come in and work the front desk, work in the dining room. We have gentlemen and women that love to sort and inventory. The supplies we use with our residents, all the toiletries and stuff that we keep. But then we have a whole nother level of donations that either we use, you know, whether it's clothing or umbrellas or all those things, but then the rest of it goes to the thrift store. And so then the thrift store gets more than we can handle in there. So where does the leftover go? Then we have the operations team that delivers and distributes things that we can't use to other shelters and programs, but they're also going to HEB, they're going to Walmart, they're going to Costco, getting those donations that those corporations want to donate, and then they're bringing it back. And so we are a well-oiled machine, just like the thrift store. That's a completely different staff. I rarely see them unless I go over there to find a little something for myself. But, you know, we have people who work the front there. We have volunteers that just come and get things out of people's car, and then we're sorting it in the back and putting it in the thrift store, and on and on and on. So we would not be the Samaritan Inn without the volunteers. There's no way I could manage 2 programs, financial development and career development, 10 classes every week that, you know, are going to take up 2 hours at a time. My volunteers make our program. Without them, we couldn't do it. It would have to be way scaled down.
Sure. So success is getting that job, keeping it. Transitional housing. Does that come out of is that part of the budget, is subsidizing the transitional housing, or do you have your own?
So as a transitional shelter, that just means that the model we're using is that they do live there.
Yeah.
That they kind of pass the screening for being not on drugs, not on alcohol, having their documentation, which is a whole different ballgame if you have somebody that comes up and got mugged.
Yeah.
Their backpack got stolen, and it had their wallet, their debit card, their ID, and their Social Security, and their birth certificate in it. It's like, oh, dang. So they come into the program. They're doing their transitional requirements. They get a job. They do all the things. So the longest they can stay with us is about a year. And so their caseworker starts working on them about an exit plan. Are they going to, go into HUD housing? Are they somebody that is really just maybe they have family in El Paso or across the country and they really want to get back there? How are you going to do that? What are you going to do for work there? So we start working on that exit plan as that becomes touchable, within 4 or 5 months. The conversation starts happening. If they have an eviction, it's hard to rent an apartment if you have an eviction. So we start working on all that. So not after they leave Samaritan Inn, they're either going to some type of housing under HUD, or they're getting an apartment as best as they can. Maybe they're getting a roommate. Maybe they're going back to family that maybe there's been some restoration of relationships there. Gateway is our housing that that individuals can apply for when they've gotten to phase 2, which means they've done all their classes, they're working, they've attended their caseworker meetings, they're doing counseling, they've got their web
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
actively
I like that.
rebuilt. They can apply for Gateway, and that it's competitive. We may have 4 applicants for one apartment. And then the clinical team, we meet every week and we get together and go through those applications when those come up. And if it's somebody that successfully gets in, then they're going to have a rent of about $600. They're going to have utilities of about $200. They're going to have to, you still have to be drug-free, alcohol-free, no overnight visits unless they're approved. Yeah. We have a caseworker over there, but, it's like 20 apartments or whatever. We have some 2 bedrooms and 1 bedroom. So sometimes it's a small family or individual or roommate situation. But we don't have enough for everybody.
Right.
So then we're always trying to find those situations.
Is the transitional housing in your facility, is it located near jobs, or is it public transport? Is there availability public transportation?
For our transitional shelter.
Your transitional shelter, but also your
Gateway.
Gateway. Yeah. Because that's a problem, right? Is like a lot of the housing is disconnected.
Well, especially in McKinney, because we're not Dallas.
Yeah.
Dallas is the city and county of Dallas is quite a bit away. Dallas is big. And so transportation is a big issue. And through some efforts of the city of McKinney, shout out to the city of McKinney, we have something called Collin County Transit, and it's for elderly, disabled, and low income. And so that qualifies a lot of our residents, and I'm actually the point of contact for that. And they use something called GoPass. It's an app.
Okay.
And they can call the rides, and it's either a Collin County van or they actually contract with Lyft.
Okay.
And they can call their rides for work or for medical stuff. And it's within 7 miles of Samaritan Inn. It's $5 there, $5 back. That's a lot better than having to take an Uber and it'd be $20.
Yeah, so it's almost like subsidized transportation specifically for this at-risk group.
Yeah. Low income, elderly, and disabled.
And the city, the city provides that. Like the city made the decision that this is an important place for the resources.
Yeah, and they actually have a grant. The mayor has some money where we're able to, when we have a resident that comes in with zero money, nothing, makes it hard to get a job. And we can give them 30 days. There's free transportation.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that allows them to get a job, and then they get that paycheck, and we kind of start the engine, so to speak. But there's other small cities like Prosper and Melissa and Princeton that are part of that consortium that subsidizes the transportation. So it's a Collin County Transit. They can go into Plano, they can go into Frisco, they can go to all the other small cities. But there's a group of the smaller cities that subsidize it.
Yeah, there's such important practical impediments.
Yes.
To this problem. And
Absolutely.
Transportation is one of those.
Yes.
That those of us who have always had cars, reliable cars, don't think a thing about.
Right. It's not your problem. It's not in your sight every day. But even going back to when I worked at the community college, that was an issue before 2012. Yep. It was a huge issue when students calls crying, I'm in Saltville and my car's broken down and I can't get to class and I know that I've already missed some. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah, or not to mention all the kids in Saltville that weren't at the community college because they didn't have a car to
It wasn't even an option. Yeah.
I think, like, before I started doing this podcast, I didn't think transportation was one of the big problems.
Yeah.
But it's a big problem.
It is.
Like, I know you're not in Dallas, but in Dallas, there is public transportation. Like, there's a solution there. In Bristol, like, it's a huge problem.
Right. And in McKinney it is. And there's some political things to that. And there's some some local government things to that. Like,
Yeah.
and we lived in Frisco for 12 years.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily want public transportation coming from Dallas there.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get it. Same thing with Plano.
Right.
Well, we're here. Plano's here. Yeah. Frisco's here. We're here.
Yeah.
How do we get through that?
But
so
there's also the practice on the bigger level. Like, part of the solution is the transitional housing, right? Yours is a transitional shelter. All right, you keep correcting me there. What is the difference between housing and
housing? Is when they would be in some type of housing with some level of support.
Okay.
That is not us, because we are private.
Okay.
We're a private shelter.
Okay. But if there's not transitional, because what I hear local people here in Bristol, like Brooks, saying is like they provide shelter, but a path to success has to be a transitional housing shelter. There has to be something next. And that is increasingly difficult. And there have been thoughts about building those. The problem is it's not affordable in the city centers, and cities don't want transitional shelter or transitional housing in downtown. Right. So now your option is, can you build something else in a more affordable space outside of downtown? But then you're disconnected from the jobs
and the resources, like doctors, dentists, mental health.
Yeah.
But you have public housing.
Yeah.
Here in Bristol.
Yeah.
So individuals are already there that probably have some type of need, that are maybe on the verge of even becoming homeless, but you don't know because nobody's down there knocking on the door. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
How are things going? But, even, again, that outreach piece that I mentioned, why isn't there some caseworkers embedded in those communities? Is that a starting point? That's a lot better than trying to build a facility and do it all there. Yeah. And I think Salvation Army, they are sheltering it, and it's kind of like an emergency shelter because they're putting as many people in there at night on beds. We provide individual rooms, but when and there's programs in downtown Dallas. We just did a tour of the bridge, and that's what they do. Their goal is to get as many people off the street at night as they can. Yeah. Because bad things happen at night. And so if they have a safe place to sleep, they're going to be able to at least go to work. They're not doing drugs. They're not getting into fights. They're not getting killed. They're not getting harassed. All the things, they're sleeping, everybody, and then they get fed, and then out the door you go. Yeah. That's a good model when that need is there, and when you have so many homeless that it's not practical to build a 1,000 room dormitory.
Whole campus. Yeah.
But I do know that from my experience, when people come to Samaritan, anybody that ever wants to donate or hire residents or anything, my first thing is, will you come and do a tour so that you understand how we work? Because people have a vision of what a homeless shelter.
Yeah. What are people most surprised by?
How organized and intentional we are with not only our food or our space, but when you walk in, and if you're looking, let's say in the dining hall, you would never know who the workers are and who the residents are.
That's intentional.
That is intentional. We're not wearing three-piece suits in there, but they're also not going to sit in there in their pajamas. No, put on your clothes and, dress like you're going to a restaurant. Right. So it's all that. And it's, showing them the computer lab, and here's the classroom, and here's this. And our caseworkers are embedded in the building where the residents live and all that. So there's we are not perfect by any means, but we've got a system going that it's appealing when you see it, and it's appealing when you see it working for so many residents who choose to come and do the program.
Yeah. You've practiced here in around Bristol, and you've seen this in a much larger city?
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough question, but like some of that translates back to a rural area like this, and some of it doesn't. What do you think that you've learned that would be really useful for our homeless problem here?
Mm-hmm. And we've touched on it a little bit, and that's that there's so many unique needs of the individuals living here who are homeless.
Yeah.
So I think
so they're different. It's different needs. It might be.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be that, but I don't know, because have we talked to them? Have we asked the right questions? It's easy, and we try to be careful with this. And one thing that I love about having the clinical team that we do, caseworkers, mental health, me, and some other players, is that we check each other to be like, we're making an assumption here that this is what even our residents need. Have we asked them? And it's like, oh, well, we haven't. Well, let's just do a survey and ask to make sure that we're right. Do they want this or whatever? Because it's easy as professionals and as educators to say, this is what our homeless needs. Yeah. Well, that's your assumption. And you really don't know until you've done that formative evaluation and ask. Of course, you have people that have worked with the homeless for a long time. They bring a lot of knowledge. But we also have to be careful that we're not making assumptions because we're the professionals. You've got to really dig deep and spend time understanding the unique needs, but also those patterns of needs, so that you can start somewhere and be effective with it. And then you have information to take to your community leaders, to your industry, to your government. They want to know. They don't want this just qualitative. You've got to have the quantitative too.
And a success requires certain stakeholders, right?
Absolutely.
And what I've heard is those stakeholders are volunteers.
Absolutely.
Is a critical part. Like, it sounds like you couldn't do what you do without the volunteers.
It is critical for us, and I think it's a best practice.
Yeah. So there's the volunteers. There is the city, the government.
Yes.
In your case, like the contribution, is it fair to say that the most important contribution they make is the transportation? Or is
it's deeper than that? It's deeper than that, because it's with us being in that area of McKinney. I mean, not everybody wants a homeless program in your city.
Yeah,
get that, but it's nice that you have a city that advocates. But we're the same thing downtown. When we talk to the individuals, the leadership at the bridge, it's like, people don't want to look out their window and see homeless people sleeping in their cars, having fights out front. And so as programs, you also have to understand your role in blending in with your community in the most responsible way that you have control. You can't control what goes on. But, that if they're like, we definitely want to be supportive of the program, but, we also have to not have people just laying out and around. And that's more important in downtown Dallas. And we don't have that problem. But, there's got to be give and take. And there's sacrifices from the city, but there's also sacrifices from us. We're not just going to do it because we think we know best. We have to collaborate. You cannot be territorial. You can't live in the silo, so to speak. You have to really be humble with it and figure out how you can make things work, even if it's not in the structure that you had in mind.
Yeah. Brooks with the local Salvation Army was really quick. He talked about this myth that if you provide a quality service for a homeless, that it will attract homeless from other areas.
Right.
And he really pushed back against that myth and said that their population is local. They're not coming here from other places because we serve the homeless better in Bristol and somewhere else.
Right.
Has that been your experience as well?
I think that is probably more accurate for rural, but we absolutely have people come to Samaritan Inn because we do things well. Just like a good analogy is if you have a good soccer program, you're going to have people that are going to travel from Knoxville to come here.
But those are people with means and can
right. But the idea is they can get a better service here, and they're willing to sacrifice. Just like somebody, I mean, you may have a few, but just like us, that does happen. But the last thing you want to do is bypass your own community to bring people who are coming from Michigan and Florida and all that. So when you have those partnerships that are deep, not only financial, but again, it's just you have multiple relationships with people that support the program. Then, we have beds that there's a priority for somebody in Collin County. But then maybe there's been a partnership with Dallas, and so we give some priority at times to those beds. But it's never like, oh, you're not from Collin County, we're not going to serve you. It's just like if we have 5 people come for intake, and it's really in the loop that 2 of those beds are priority for Collin County, then those Collin County residents are going to be considered first. If they're on drugs or they don't have their documentation and they go out the door and we don't have a next person for Collin County, then we're able to serve those others. So you can set some boundaries that are fair, and it still allows you to serve a large population. Again, in a rural area, that's not going to probably be as the case. And I'm not saying we have droves and droves. Yeah. It's like occasionally we do have people that a lot of times what happens is somebody comes from out of state because they have family in Dallas, and the family says, come on. Well, the family doesn't realize, come on means you're going to take care of them for a long time. Yeah. So after a month of having people in your house, it's kind of like, okay, when are you getting your own place? Yeah. And they can't.
That's the other thing that stuck out with me from that conversation with Brooks is that the solution is usually a family support system, like the long-term solution or the transitional. Right. The transitional housing is typically family, but it takes work to get them in the condition to be able for the family to help them.
Right. And sometimes that's just not the solution. Yes, I think for anybody having family support, but that doesn't also mean that you just go squat on your family and, you become, because enmeshment, and we go back to the generational patterns, that enmeshment or control or just people, family members that just can't be that intimate in a family structure like that. So
or abusive, just downright abusive. Right. A lot of that.
Yeah. So you have to assess that. But obviously, we want families to support each other. And that does happen. All the time, it's somebody's leaving unexpectedly. We thought they'd be with us longer. And it's like, my dad sees me here at the shelter and he doesn't want me here. And he's decided that I can't come back.
Yeah. So, talking about the stakeholders, there's the volunteers, there's the city that can provide things that others can't.
Right.
And then there's the businesses. Where do they contribute? And where could a Bristol business replicate? What could they do for this?
Right. And that is big because again, when you're doing a shelter, especially where people live, it's a long-term commitment. I don't need your money for 1 year. I need it for 20, or I need some endowment. We need something that is sustainable. I mean, we'll take any donation, whether it's $5 or $50,000 one time. But you've got to have people, individual donors. Yeah, you've got to have businesses and industry. I mean, banks a lot of times have to have. They're supposed to be charitable. There's a lot of that built into companies, like they have to decide on a charity in their community, and they should be involved in kind, but also maybe financial giving. Those businesses are what can create some sustainability. And those maybe it's a family that has some generational wealth and they just have a heart to serve, and maybe they haven't found their niche of what they like, but they come and see you have a plan, you have a model, you understand it, and they decide to invest.
You mentioned a barbecue place that you couldn't, that was vitally important. Yes. It was kind of random. So tell me about like that. They play a key. They're a
Yes,
stakeholder,
we
right?
have. Yes. Not only do they provide a meal, they bring enough food one night a week to our dining hall. So they feed our residents
Okay.
at least once. That's not Bomb Ballpark, so it could be more
Yeah.
than that. But they feed our residents, and then they're in walking distance. There's probably one of the closest restaurants to us. They hire our residents all the time, knowing that they're residents. They're willing to take the risk. But the reason is because they know us, because they come over, they're welcome anytime. They see you, they can walk in anytime and say, I want to see what's going on. And we'd be like, all right, let's go. They understand what we're trying to do, and they hire our residents and work them into that full time so that they can be sustainable.
I'm guessing that maybe that started charitable, like a charitable attitude toward it. But businesses don't continue to hire people unless it's sustainable and it's a win-win.
Right.
So have they done anything? Have they done anything to set the residents up for success and this be like a win-win for them? You know what I mean? Like
right. And that kind of goes back to some of the autonomy. As a career development coordinator, I would love to be more enmeshed and involved, and that may be better for actually a rural area. But there's no way for me to do that across the board. To be like, how is John doing? Is he working? Is there anything I need to share with this caseworker that we can help improve or any of that? We don't do that. It used to kind of confuse me why we didn't, but the longer I'm there, I understand that because it is their job, and we really don't need to be nosing around in that. If they decide not to work well and they come in there like I got fired, and we say, well, what happened?
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody skirts around it, but a lot of times they're on their phone. They're not showing up on time. Yeah. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And they know that. And there's no level of me intervening with that that really should happen because it's their choice. Yeah. They're adults. They know. Yeah. And that jeopardizes their finances, but it also jeopardizes their spot in our program.
Yeah. You also have to protect your boundaries.
Absolutely.
Going back to trying to do everything for everybody.
Yes.
Sets the organization up for failure.
Yeah. And your clinical staff, that forward-facing people for just burnouts.
Yeah. It's harder to do. That's one of the harder things to do, I think, for organizations is to identify this, not just what we do, but this is what we don't do.
Right. Yeah. And Hutchins Barbecue is a huge somebody that employs, but we also have Encore Wire. They make industrial wire, and they are so great. And it takes somebody who's very able to do a machine for 12 hours. So not all of our residents are going to be successful at that. But when there is somebody that I built at least some collaboration with and some understanding of their work ethic, and they want to apply, I can email and just say, hey, we've got an app, because they get hundreds of applications. That's hard to go through. It's like, I have this resident that's going to apply for this job. If he's a good fit, maybe if he would work, could you at least interview him? Yeah. And then I tell all my residents, I'm like, if I get that little door that cracked for you and you can punch through it and get the interview, that's on you. You got to interview well. You got to look at them in the eye. You got to shake hands. You got to do all the interview questions that we practice in class. Yeah. You've got to be ready to answer those. You don't want to be sitting there thinking about it because I've given you a list. Practice it, Yeah. Those type things. HEB. Did you ever do HEB? It's a grocery store. Okay. Hadn't been in Dallas until the last few years, but they're here. And they're one of our biggest employers. Oh. There's one in Allen. There's one in Frisco. There's one in McKinney. And now there's one in Melissa, up by Buc-ee's in Melissa. And they are a big donor for us with food and with helping us upgrade our kitchen and then employing our residents. Yeah. So we do have we have a handful of local businesses that really go to bat, and they know. And I always get apologetic sometimes, like, oh, I'm sorry that person didn't work out. And it's really just me processing. And they're always like, it doesn't work out with the general population. There's people that come and we think they're going to be great and they're not. So it's not a shelter thing. Right. Yeah. It's a human thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have to remind me of that. And I'm like, you're right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, your image of a web, that web of support, that spider web and the strands, and the stakeholders, all the stakeholders that are needed to like put those strands together, but then ultimately the responsibility of the person.
Right.
To when that crack in the door opens, to have the ability to go through it. Like all of those are pretty powerful images.
Right.
That translate to.
And I haven't even got to brag on our clinical staff because, we're the ones that the whole framework of Samaritan Inn is holding us up.
Yeah.
And then we hold the residents up. But, who you put in front of residents is very important.
And those are specialists, right? Like those are specialists that do very intentional things like yourself. It's the financial literacy.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the strengths in that is that we take interns. So we have counseling interns and we have caseworker interns, which is good for us because that allows us to serve more quicker when you have qualified interns that can come in. But it also makes them passionate about this population. So when we have an opening, it's not somebody from somewhere. Yeah. It's one of our interns like, I want to be your next full-time caseworker. And they come in and they already know. They've already kind of, so to speak, had the scab pulled when it's so hard because they have all of us supporting them when they're an intern, whether we've had a suicide or whether somebody has gone into psychosis and all of a sudden is not who they were, and all the hard things that we have to deal with working with this population. We're able to support each other, but we're also very diverse. I do want to mention that. That's something you don't necessarily see in this area of the country, but we have such a diverse staff, politically, culturally, background-wise, that it is, to me, is very interesting. You'd think there'd be a lot more like division, but we really love each other and support each other and we'll call each other out.
Yeah.
And
wow, for
the most part, we're okay at the end of the day.
Sounds very healthy.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it's really important work. I've learned a lot. We didn't even get into
there's so many layers.
Get into your true specialty, your true life's work, which is parenting. You've raised 3 extraordinary kids.
Thank you.
That I know all of them. I watched them grow up. And you've raised a husband.
Yes.
Who I know very well as well.
Yes.
And that might be the hardest
there you go. Yes.
Done in your career.
Yes.
But so next time we're going to do an hour of just parenting.
Sure.
I want to hear all your parenting wisdom because truly they're all great and successful kids, and that's not easy to do.
It's not.
Thanks for being here, and I look forward to the next one.
Okay, thanks.